Today I'm going to give you what is one of the leading causes of muscle breakdown. Breaking down the muscle, making it so that we're losing our protein in our muscle so that it's used for other things. Now there are multiple pathways in which we lose muscle. But after I share this basic mechanism, we're going to talk about a few ways that you can stave off muscle wasting that are not just associated with resistance training. We're going to talk about things that you can add into your diet. But in order to understand how these things that you can add into your diet can help you, we have to understand what this potential cause is. Now, the third leading cause is what we're focusing on. The first leading cause of muscle protein breakdown or muscle wasting is going to be not getting enough protein. The second leading cause is more than likely not stimulating the muscle. The third leading cause is what I want to focus on today. And it's not what you would typically think because it's usually in a different metabolic discussion altogether. So we'll discuss how this works, what's happening within the body, but I know that you're not academic people that are trying to get a PhD. You're just trying to live your life. So in this particular case, we're going to talk about ways that you can combat the muscle wasting once you have this understanding of what's going on in hand.
Now after this video, I put a link down below for 40% off Sundays. Now I have 4 dogs. I'll tell you, we feed them Sundays because it's human grade dog food. So that means it's good quality food that a human could eat themselves. You might be wondering, this is really random to have a commercial for dog food on a health channel. Bottom line is, this channel is also about my life and I talk about things that I use, and that's how sponsors come on this channel. So that is a 40% off discount for Sundays human grade dog food. It was formulated by a veterinarian that really saw a serious need to feed higher quality food to our dogs. So that link down below gets you 40% off. If you've got pups and you care about health, it's probably an interesting fit. Check them out down below.
So believe it or not, insulin resistance is the third cause. Why is that? Well, it has to do with something relatively fancy, but I'll give a high-level breakdown of the scientific part, and then we'll just get down to the basics of what it really means to you. So it has to do with what is called the ubiquitin proteasome proteolytic pathway. What the heck does that mean? Look at, most people are going to react that way. Essentially what it means in a very simple way is that when we are insulin resistant, it triggers sort of a pre-programmed cellular death, apoptosis. And this can happen in this proteolytic pathway, which means it's really prioritizing the breakdown of protein and muscle tissue in this case. So when one is insulin resistant, there are a number of different metabolic signals that become disrupted. And when these metabolic signals become disrupted, obviously glucose management, insulin release, all this is thrown out of whack. But people don't realize the effect that this has on muscle. So insulin resistance can lead to muscle wasting, especially if it starts becoming much more extreme. And you add that into the mix without enough protein and without stimulation, like resistance training, you're walking a very, very thin line and a path towards serious metabolic issues, because the more muscle that you lose, the worse the insulin resistance gets, because muscle is a glucose sink. So the more muscle you lose, the more insulin resistant you potentially become, then the worse this entire ubiquitin PP pathway ends up becoming. You end up breaking down more protein through pre-programmed cellular death. So let's cut right to the chase. What can you do? So obviously we've talked about stimulating the muscle, resistance training, consuming more protein. That's elementary school, right? That's basic stuff. Let's focus on how we can improve our insulin resistance throughout the course of the day with our diet. One of the things that I've been very interested in recently is something called omega-7s. Omega-7s are a type of fat that are specifically in things like macadamia nut oil, in avocado oil, and in something called sea buckthorn berries. You don't get them from a lot of foods, but avocado oil and macadamia nut oil. So omega-7s are unique because they seem to influence insulin sensitivity via different pathways than other foods. Okay, there have even been some studies that have taken a look at circulating omega-7 levels in over 1,200 participants, and they found that higher levels of circulating palmitoleic omega-7 led to better insulin sensitivity, less insulin resistance in the liver, and ultimately just better glycemic control. So this is one of those things where, okay, we just add this into our diet in place of maybe a saturated fat here and there, and that can have some pretty profound effects. So we really should be looking at adding these monounsaturated fats to our diet. Another thing that you can do is increase specific kinds of fiber. Now, we hear fiber and we think, okay, I'm gonna eat more salad. I don't recommend you just go do that because all salad typically is a vessel for salad dressing and cruddy oils. I just don't think that's the best way to get your fiber in. I say go for the gusto and go for the hard-hitting stuff. So with this, things like glucomannan fiber, shirataki noodles, those little weird clear noodles, those pack such a powerful punch when it comes to soluble fiber. Chia seeds, flax seeds, and psyllium. Adding these fibers into the mix can have a profound impact on insulin resistance. There are some studies that demonstrate that when you add like 35 grams of fiber per day, you can have a huge, like over 20% improvement in insulin sensitivity, and that's in a pretty short time too. Okay, so by adding in the fiber into the mix throughout the course of the day, you have this tremendous impact. What are some other interesting things that you can do? Apple cider vinegar or lemon water anytime that you have carbohydrates. And that might seem funky to do, but you can do what I do. I take a glass of water, I take a little bit of apple cider vinegar and or lemon juice, and then I do like a little bit of stevia and basically make a lemonade. Then you've got a really good lemonade and it's easy to sip on throughout your meal. Because a lot of people, they'll have a shot of apple cider vinegar before or after carbohydrates. And that's great, and it's probably doing something, but not nearly as much as if you were sipping on it throughout your meal. So we used to call it like, poor man's lemonade, right? Like you can go to Panera Bread and you can ask for a cup of water and you can squirt some lemon in it and then take sugar packets or something like that and make lemonade. But in this particular case, if you find a place that has stevia, and most places have them now and then, or just pack stevia with you, you can literally make a poor man's sugar-free lemonade that has a powerful impact. The lemon affects the enzymes that allow us to break down starch, so you break it down slower. And apple cider vinegar or any kind of vinegar has a similar effect, just working a slightly different pathway with different enzymes. Another thing that we can pay attention to is eating our protein first. This is a very simple thing, but the order of our meals can have one of the strongest impacts on our insulin sensitivity. By simply eating the protein first, you can potentially attenuate the glucose spike by up to 50%. So just having that protein first is critical because it's going to allow you to have something to break down, so the carbohydrates have to work a little bit harder to be digested because you've got something sort of buffering the overall just digestion. So it's purely mechanical. It's just having to do with digestion, and this makes a tremendous, tremendous, tremendous impact. Another thing that you can do is you can try allocating more of your carbohydrates to earlier in the day if you're going to be active. This plays a big role too because then it allows you to utilize those carbs throughout the day. If you're going to be sedentary throughout the course of the day, it's better to not have them first thing in the morning. It might be better to have them a little bit towards the evening time so it actually helps you sleep. The next thing that you can do is you can reduce your alcohol consumption. Believe it or not, reducing your alcohol consumption can improve how your body metabolizes fuels. So we've seen this in a lot of different things. It impacts your sleep, it impacts your liver, it impacts fatty acid oxidation, it can impact lipolysis. And there's really no good amount of alcohol. At this point in the research, we're really seeing more and more stuff that's just saying alcohol just doesn't work at all. It's not good for you. And even if it helps you feel good, it's probably through a backdoor mechanism in the mitochondria in the brain that's making you feel like you feel better. So with that, it's not really worth the squeeze. It's not really worth that little feeling that you get, especially if it can contribute to the insulin resistance that contributes to the muscle breakdown. So I know this was weird. It started out as a protein video and went to insulin resistance, but when we really look at these pathways, we understand they all kind of go together. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel. I'll see you tomorrow.